Can you imagine your girlfriend posting a photo with her ex on a girls-only trip with a caption saying she's forced to settle for you? This is the story of the man who saw the post, called her, heard laughter, and decided that if it was a joke, he knew how to be funny too. What he did in the next few hours destroyed her life in a way neither of them expected.
She posted a photo with her ex on a girls' trip, and I responded with everything I knew. My name is Lucio. Until recently, I was dating LSE. LSE was the type of person who always had people around her. Friends, acquaintances, co-workers, friends of friends. She was always organizing outings, short trips, group dinners. Her phone was practically an extension of her hand. Photos everywhere, posting everything, stories from breakfast to dinner. I'm the opposite. I have nothing against social media, but I'm not glued to it either. I post something here and there, and that's it. That difference was never a problem. Until a few weeks ago, she had been talking for weeks about a trip with her friends. A few days at the beach to disconnect. She mentioned it with that usual enthusiasm she had whenever she planned anything. Just the girls, she said once. Nothing personal. We just want to do something together. I didn't mind. I actually thought it was healthy. Everyone needs space. On the day she left, I drove her to the airport early. The parking lot was half empty. The air was still cold. She was talking fast, the way she always did when she was excited. The hotel had an ocean view. They had already made restaurant reservations. They were going out that night. We said goodbye like any couple. A quick hug, a kiss. I'll text you when I land. Nothing different. On the second night, I was at home in front of the computer after work, watching a video, finishing dinner. I opened a social media app almost on autopilot. I don't even remember why. Boredom, maybe. Then a new post from Ulse appeared. At first, it didn't catch my attention much. She posted all the time. It was normal. But when I opened the image, I understood why the algorithm was showing it to me with so many reactions. It was a photo at a bar, low lighting, table full of glasses, and her sitting very close to someone. 2 seconds were enough to recognize who it was. It was Diego, her ex. She had mentioned him once, one of those conversations couples have about past relationships without meaning to go deep. According to her, they had broken up years ago and had no more contact. That was always what she said. The photo showed the two of them sitting side by side, smiling like old friends who had run into each other by chance. But it wasn't the photo that stopped me cold. It was the caption. I can still repeat it word for word because I read it too many times that night. He's a real man. What a shame I have to settle for someone else. For a few seconds I thought I had misread it. I read it again and again. The message was right there, exactly the same.
And here's the detail that changes everything. She didn't send this privately. It wasn't a vent in a closed group chat. It was public, with his name in the comments, with people tagging Lucio directly. This isn't carelessness, it's a choice.
The comments already had dozens of reactions. Laughing emojis, surprised faces, people clearly enjoying the show. Lucio, you okay? This got weird. Someone's sleeping on the couch tonight. I picked up my phone and called her. The phone rang several times before anyone answered. When she finally picked up, the first thing I heard wasn't her voice. It was laughter. A lot of laughter. Music in the background. The typical sound of a packed bar. Lucio, she said. Her voice mixed with noise and conversations around her. Hey, I replied. Brief pause. Everything okay? Automatic question. I noticed it immediately. I just saw your post, I said. On the other end, someone let out a laugh, then another. I clearly heard a female voice asking something I couldn't make out. Les responded in a low voice and came back to me. Which post? She didn't sound confused. She sounded amused. The photo with Diego. Silence for a second, then a short little laugh. Oh, that one. In the background, someone asked. Is it him? Another answered. Yeah, it's him. The laughter came back. Lost didn't step away from the group, didn't lower her voice. On the contrary, she seemed to be enjoying the situation quite a bit. What's the problem with the photo? She asked. Did you read what you wrote? Of course. Then you know how it looks. Lucio, she said in a tone that mixed amusement and impatience. It's just a joke, a voice shouted from the back. Tell him not to be so sensitive. More laughter. It doesn't look like a joke, I said. Because you're overthinking it. Overthinking it? Yeah, we're at the bar. Diego showed up by chance and one of my friends thought it would be funny to take a photo. One of the friends spoke near the phone. It was my idea. Exactly, Les said, laughing. It was her idea. And the caption too. Delete the post, I said. The answer came almost immediately. No, she didn't even think about it. Why? It's not a big deal. Lucio, we're on a trip. Her tone shifted slightly like someone starting to get tired of the conversation. You posted that you're forced to settle for me. Oh, come on. Say it's humor, one of the friends chimed in. More laughter. In that moment, something in me went cold. All right, I said. See? Luz responded. I knew you'd understand. Enjoy your night. Sure. Before she hung up, I heard one of the friends ask, What did he say? And Les answered laughing, Nothing. He took it better than I thought. The call ended. I sat staring at my phone screen for a while. The post was still there. The comments kept coming in. People laughing, people tagging me, people who probably knew nothing about our relationship enjoying the spectacle. I turned off the phone screen, and for the first time since everything started, I stopped trying to understand. Because I already understood. For them, it was fun. A joke. Trip entertainment. What they didn't know yet was that I had absolutely no intention of sitting there waiting for them to come back. After the call ended, I sat quietly for a few minutes. That's when something simple occurred to me. If everything was a joke, there would be no problem continuing with the same logic. I opened my photo gallery. There was a lot trips, outings, everyday moments with else. I started reviewing quickly, more out of habit than nostalgia. Then I opened a new post. I thought for a few seconds about what to write, and published. The title was simple, Top Weird Things My Girlfriend Does. I paired it with several photos of us. Completely normal photos, trips, selfies, everyday moments. Nothing strange. The important part wasn't the photos, it was the text. Point 1. Wearing a foundation shade that isn't hers. I wrote that Lels had a curious habit when putting on makeup. She always chose a foundation much lighter than her actual skin tone. It wasn't a small adjustment, it was quite noticeable in photos without makeup. It was clearly visible that her skin was several shades darker. She always insisted it was the lighting or a phone filter, even though anyone who saw her in person could notice the difference. I closed that section by writing something like, I don't know if it's insecurity or just habit, but I always found it curious how she tries to convince herself nobody notices.
And notice what he was doing here. He didn't make anything up. He used exactly what she herself had shared with him in private moments. The relationship had given him access. She had given him the material. He just decided to use it.
Point 2. Using padded inserts in her bra. I was direct. I explained that Les used quite voluminous padding when they went out to certain places. It wasn't something she hid completely, sometimes she even joked about it. But there were moments when she insisted everything was natural. I wrote that on one trip the padding had shifted slightly, and she spent almost an hour adjusting in the bathroom before they could leave. I closed with, I guess we all have our tricks for looking good in photos. Point 3. When she went to therapy over her relationship with food but told a completely different story at home. This point was longer. I told the story that some time ago, Les had gone through a phase where she said she was worried about her relationship with food. She said she was eating very little, but what always caught my attention was that many times I would find her eating in secret in the kitchen at night. More than once I saw her finish an entire box of cookies, while the next day she would insist she had barely eaten anything. I closed with, I'm no therapist, but I always found it strange to say you don't eat while hiding to do exactly that. Point 4. Talking badly about all her friends when they weren't around. This was probably the most uncomfortable one to write. I stuck to things she herself had said. I wrote that Les had a very particular habit every time she came back from hanging out with her friends. She always had something to criticize about each one. One was too superficial, another was desperate for attention, another was incapable of maintaining a stable relationship. I mentioned some specific comments she had made in private, like when she said that her friend Maria had hooked up with a guy at a club while she was married, that one of her friends wore too much makeup, that another tried to seem smarter than she was, that another didn't know how to dress. I close with, it's curious to see how someone can be so warm in person and so critical when people aren't around. Point 5. Having a personal nighttime issue she was very private about. Here I was specific. I told the story that Lels had a personal issue she felt very ashamed of. It was something that had happened since she was young and that showed up during periods of stress. To avoid uncomfortable situations, she had a specific nighttime routine she never talked about with anyone. I wrote that I had always been completely discreet about it and never mentioned it to anyone. Then I added, but I guess we all have our quirks. Some people post photos with their ex, others just try to sleep in peace. I read the entire post once and published it. In the first few seconds, nothing. Then came the first reactions. A few likes, then comments, then more comments. People confused, people asking if it was real, people who clearly remembered her previous post. In less than 5 minutes, the post was getting more attention than hers. That's when the phone rang. It was Else, I answered. No background music this time, no laughter. What did you do? She asked immediately. Completely different tone from before. What do you mean? I replied calmly. The post. Delete it now. Why? Because everything you wrote is private. I thought we were joking around. Short silence. Then her voice went up in pitch. This isn't a joke. Yours didn't seem very serious either. Lucio, this is different. You're exposing personal things. You posted that you're forced to settle for me. That was humor. Exactly. Humor. I heard voices in the background, her friends, but this time there was no laughter. Delete it now, she repeated. Don't get upset, I said calmly. Take it in stride. Long silence. Then I heard one of the friends speak in a low voice, but close enough to the phone for me to hear. That last part, is it actually true? Another responded. Seriously? Les came back, more agitated now. All of that was private. Relax, I said. It's just the internet. My friends are right here. Yeah, I can hear them. Another awkward silence. Then Lel said something in a low voice I couldn't make out. Then I heard movement. One of the friends spoke clearly this time. Did you really talk badly about all of us? Lels tried to respond to something, but nobody was laughing anymore. Lucio, please delete it. Are you sure it's not an overreaction? I said. It's not funny. Yours wasn't either. Several seconds of silence. Relax, I said finally. It's just a joke, and I hung up. The call had lasted just over 3 minutes. I looked at my phone and had one more idea. I had recorded the entire conversation. I uploaded the audio in the comments of the post. I wrote one line above it, for everyone asking whether this is a joke. The comments exploded within minutes. About an hour later, my phone rang with an unknown number. I answered out of curiosity. Lucio? A male voice. That's me. pause, the person choosing their words. Hey man, it's John, Maria's husband. It took me a second to place it. Maria was one of Elsa's closest friends. We used to go out in a group with them as couples. Hey, I replied. His tone was serious. I want to ask you something directly. What you wrote in the post, is it true or is it some kind of sick joke? It's true. Silence on the other end, then a long sigh. Damn, he murmured. I already had a feeling something wasn't right with Maria. I didn't respond. Do you know anything else? He asked after a few seconds. About what she said about her friends, I thought for a moment. I didn't want to make anything up, but I remembered several things Else had commented on over time. I only said what I had actually heard comments she made when she came back from outings with her friends. Small criticisms, insinuations about arguments, suspicions about problems in certain relationships. Joel listened in silence. I understand, he said finally. His voice didn't sound surprised anymore. It sounded tired. Thanks for being straight with me. No problem. I needed to know. Brief pause. Take care of yourself, man. And he hung up.
And here the damage had already gotten out of Lucio's control. He made the post. But what came after Joao, calling, finding out, confronting Maria, that domino effect was triggered by the very words Elsie herself had said in private. Lucio just repeated what she had told him.
About 3 hours later, the phone rang again. It was Les. From the very first second, I knew something had changed. She was crying, not a quiet cry. It was an uncontrolled, broken cry. I hate you, she said the moment I picked up. I didn't respond immediately. Lucio, she said with a mix of rage and tears. Are you listening? I am. I hate you, she repeated. You destroyed my life. Her voice was shaking. Everyone is messaging me. They won't stop. I stayed silent. My friends, she said between sobs. My friends left. What do you mean they left? They left. They got angry at me. I heard noise in the background like she was walking down a hallway. Maria, she said next. Maria came back. Came back how? Came back. Her voice trembled more. She completely lost it in front of everyone at the hotel. She screamed. Her husband had called her, told her he knew everything, that he was leaving her. I said nothing. She thought I had told people things about her marriage, and when she saw the post, she lost control. Another sob. Everyone was watching. Everyone. Her voice broke. You're a monster. There was no more anger in her tone, only desperation. I thought for a few seconds, then I responded calmly, that's too bad, and I hung up. The next morning, the post had spread beyond the circle of people who knew us. Someone had shared it in a local gossip group in the city, that type of group, where people post stories about neighbors, rumors, fights, and anything that generates attention. There, everything completely spun out of control. People who had never heard Loss's name were now commenting on the story. Memes, screenshots, opinions from strangers, and then something else appeared. Someone created an AI-generated image. It looked similar to Les. In the image, she appeared in a humiliating situation related to what had been written in the post. The photo was obviously fake, but it didn't matter. The image started circulating in the comments, then on other pages, then in more groups. By the end of the day, it was practically a meme. In the days that followed, new posts appeared. People saying that someone had printed that image and put it up near her workplace. I don't know who did it. I never found out. I only saw photos of flyers posted on poles and walls in the area where she worked. Les tried to sue me. I received a legal notice a few days later, but the situation was complicated. Her post still existed. It was the starting point of everything. There were screenshots. There were timestamps. The complaint didn't go anywhere. The authorities said there was no proof that I had created or spread the fake image. Only my original post existed. The relationship ended officially a few days later. No final conversation, no attempt at reconciliation. We simply stopped existing in each other's lives. Les closed all her social media. First the main account, then the others. The posts disappeared one by one. In the weeks that followed, I barely heard news of her, only rumors that reached me through mutual friends, that she had left her job, that she was avoiding going out, that the friend group had been completely destroyed. The last thing I heard was that she had moved to another city. Apparently she went to live with an aunt. She had there. I don't know if it's true. I didn't try to confirm it.
I need to be honest here, and this is going to be different from the other commentaries I've done. Lucio was humiliated publicly, with an audience, with laughter, with her friends listening and enjoying every second of it. And when he asked her to delete it, the answer was no, without even a moment's thought. So yes, I understand his reaction, but I need to say what really happened here. He responded in kind. Fair enough. He used information she had shared with him in private, within a relationship. Up to that point, you can understand it. But what came after got out of control in a way that even he admits he didn't expect. An AI-generated image circulating in groups, flyers printed near her workplace, memes from strangers who knew nothing about the story. That wasn't a proportional consequence. That was destruction. She made a serious mistake. Her post was cruel, public, and completely unnecessary. But what came after was on a completely different scale. Sometimes the right response isn't the most devastating one you're capable of giving. Sometimes it's just the one that lets you sleep at night with a clear conscience. This ending isn't satisfying for anyone. Not for her, who lost everything. Not for him, who won a victory that probably cost more than it seemed to be worth.